Straight talk from Israel. You're listening to Israel News Talk Radio.
Welcome to Returning Home. I'm your host, Natalie Sapinski, speaking to you live from my home in Susia, the southern Hebron Hills. It is a beautiful day and a beautiful time of year. We finished up Yom Ha'atzmaut, and now we're rolling right into the next big holiday, which is Lag BaOmer. And it is so funny here in Israel, in a yeshuv like mine. This is what goes on for the next 2 weeks. Every day after school, the children meet and gather wood. They do this for about 2 hours, from 4 o'clock to 6. And you see them dragging dead trees and branches all over the place. And they have this one spot where they do these fires on Lag BaOmer, and all the children go to the same place. But each group, each age group, each B'nai Akiva group actually has their own big fire. So you see like 10 different piles of wood in this one area. It is so funny, but it is one of my favorite nights of the year because I am on fire patrol. All parents do take a 2-hour shift. And mine is usually something like 2 in the morning until 3, until 4. And I'm the one who really brings the bucket of water, and I make sure the fire hose works. And, by that time, most of the parents gone home. It's nuts. And each group is making, chicken wings or burgers, marshmallows. I mean, they just have like this big table of food, and the kids are exhausted. I mean, they are exhausted, but they do their best to stay up as long as they can, but they're falling asleep on each other's laps. It is hilarious. And I'm looking forward to that, I think, as much as the children are, probably even more so. It's just, I get a real kick out of it. It makes me feel like a kid. So that's kind of what is going on now. And then right after that, we roll into summer. So it's almost like summertime now. Actually, we have a tent set out, and I've been sleeping in the tent for the past week with my son and the dog. And actually, last night, my daughter came out also because I feel it's just such fresh air, and the air makes you wake up early and you sleep better. And I guess it's just something about the air here. It's like magical and healthy, and people laugh at me, but I don't care. I like it. And the kids are happy. Stick around. We'll be right back. We have a great show for you.
Israel is located in one of the most volatile areas in the world. Israel is an island of stability in a sea of war and unrest. In the midst of this turmoil, Israel stands out as a beacon of order and human progress. Each week we update you on what's happening in this, the Jewish state, a true light unto the nations. This is Jay Shapiro. Join me every Thursday on Israel News Talk Radio.
Welcome back to Returning Home. I'm your host, Natalie Sapinski. Joining us today is a woman who lives in a place we have not had anyone from the show from this place. It's called Ariel. It's a beautiful yeshuv up north, as big as a city. There's a university there. And Ariella is American. She made aliyah from Lower Marion, Philadelphia area in 2008 with her husband. Very interesting story, and she'll tell us all about it. She has 4 children, 4 kids under the age of 10. Ariella, are you there?
I'm here. It's great to be here, Natalie. Thanks for having me.
Okay.
I just want to make one small correction. Actually, Ariel isn't up north. We're in the Shomron.
That's right. Well, it's north for me, and it's north for anyone in Yerushalayim.
Well,
it's north
I guess
of
it
Yerushalayim.
depends where you are, right?
Sure. But you're in the mountains. So tell us your aliyah story, if you will. Let's go back to before 2008. I know you were raised in Philadelphia. Were you raised to live in Israel? Was this a plan you had way back?
Well, I can tell you that I grew up in a family who really had a great love for Israel. My parents always I was surrounded by talk of Israel in the home. So yes, I definitely grew up with a connection to Israel. We had a family trip, our first family trip to Israel when I was 10 years old with our family, and since then I came back several times to visit. So to answer your question, yes, absolutely. We were raised in a home with a love for Israel.
Okay, so that's good. So that's good to know. All right. I'm sure everyone is not surprised then that you're here, right?
I suppose not, though you'll hear in a bit when I tell my aliyah story that it actually wasn't 100% that love of Israel itself that brought me, though I do love it, and I don't regret a single decision I made to come here. That leads me into the story of how I met my husband, actually.
Yeah, go, let's go. All right.
Okay, so I'm going to try and keep it short because I know it's a short segment. Those who know me know that that's very difficult for me, so I'm really going to try. So I actually, in my senior year of college, I went to George Washington University in Washington, D.C. Every single winter break, I always came on some group trip to Israel for a couple of weeks. So senior year was no different. I came with an organization called Beitar. And we spent our first Shabbat, actually not far away from where we are now in Ariel, in Kidumim. And actually that's where I met him. He was a fresh oleh, Hadash. He was living in Jerusalem, studying in yeshiva. And we met that Shabbat and we kept in touch. I stayed a couple of weeks. And then I went back home to finish university. And then I came back again that summer after I graduated. And,
wait, just tell us give me when was this? 2005, 2001?
Oh, I'm sorry. Dates. December 2006. That's when we met. Mm-hmm.
All right. So did you have Facebook back then or WhatsApp? I don't remember.
Yeah, yes, we did. We did have Facebook back then. WhatsApp, no. Okay. WhatsApp, not yet.
Okay. Okay, I mean, you didn't, write letters to this guy. How did you keep in touch with him?
Actually, Natalie, you might be surprised to hear that I did.
Oh, that's so romantic.
Snail mail.
Nice.
I have to say I probably wrote a lot more to him than I received from him. But I have all those letters still in a drawer somewhere.
Okay, good. That's very nice. That's very nice to hear. Okay, go on.
So I wanted to say that after I graduated, I actually came and worked for Bank of Poalim in Tel Aviv. It was like an internship for people from actually all over the world. So actually, we met again. We strengthened our relationship. By the end of the summer, I was almost sure that this was the man I wanted to marry. But I left again, and I came back home to Philadelphia, which was still my home at the time. But as soon as I came home, I opened my tik aliyah and started the process to make aliyah. Okay. Now that was already, I guess, summer 2007. Okay. And then we kept in touch again, long distance, phone calls, emails, occasional letters written by me, and we saw each other once during that period of time. In February, he came to visit, and then I finally made aliyah in July 2008. So we have our relationship was mostly long distance before we got married.
Whoa!
We got
okay, so then you got married.
After I made aliyah. What'd you say?
Okay, wait. Slow down. So you made aliyah and then you got married, right?
I made aliyah, got engaged a month later, and then we got married in January 2009. That's correct.
Very nice. Very nice. Okay, good. So you came here out of love, and that is not
for
uncommon.
The land and for the man.
Yeah, for the land and for the man. It's good. It's good. Okay. So good. Let's keep going. Everything's going forward. Everything's happy.
Everything's happy, yes. So you want me to talk about...
So go on.
So let me tell you, I made aliyah directly to Ariel. Actually, I hadn't heard of Ariel. I didn't know anything about it. I made aliyah directly to Ariel from Philadelphia because that's where he was. By the time I made aliyah, he had already stopped studying in yeshiva and he had gotten a job in a place called Rosh Hashanah. And he asked where should I live? And people suggested, why don't you go live in Ariel? So he was like, okay. So that's why I made aliyah to Ariel, because the show was here.
Okay.
So I really didn't know much about it.
It's okay.
So
you knew him.
the first time I
no
was
matter
ever
where
in
he
Ariel
would have
was
been.
when I set foot here after I got off the plane. So
right. So that's fine though, because it doesn't matter, because wherever he would have been is where you would have gone.
Most likely, though, I do have to say I was awarded a plaque for being the first oleh to make aliyah directly to Ariel from America.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Good. Good. Okay, so let's fast forward. This is many years later now. You're here with a family of your own, still married to the same man, yes?
Yes, Baruch Hashem.
Now, he is a kind of an interesting story, because he's not from Philadelphia, born and bred like you at all.
He is not. We came
Let's
from
hear
very
it.
different backgrounds.
He is from Belarus, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. He was born in the former Soviet Union in Belarus, in a place called Gomel. And he moved to Cleveland, Ohio when he was 11 years old. So that was in 1991.
And when did he come to Israel? Did he come to Israel when he was like 18, 19?
Yeah, he actually did. He was in Bar Ilan for a semester, or 2 semesters, I can't remember. And so, yeah, he did do that. And then he went back to Cleveland, and he worked in Cleveland until he made aliyah. He was 23 when he made aliyah.
Okay, so you guys are a couple years apart.
When I met him, basically, I remember I met him a month after he made aliyah, so he was very, very new.
Okay, so we have a couple minutes left. I'd like you to tell us about your life, your day-to-day life in Ariel. Now, as far as I know, Ariel, I've been there a couple times, driven through. It's a big city today. It's a yeshuv, but it's a big one.
Yeah.
Okay, so describe it to us, if you will.
It's been amazing, actually, to see it really develop and flourish, because when I came here, I guess it was 13 years ago, the Ariel today is very different than the Ariel I came to, for the better. I mean, we have 2 malls, which is great. We've got a Max stock, but that's not all that I'm talking about. I mean, I'm just talking about also just the community has grown so much. So many families with young children have moved here, religious families. It's just been really amazing to see how Ariel has developed over the years. And even though, like I said, I didn't necessarily choose Ariel for the sake of Ariel, I really can't imagine living anywhere else. I mean, this is really my home. I really just can't imagine.
Okay, so tell us what you mean by that. Is it a city? Is it a country? Is there grass? Are there trees?
So, yes, I'm looking at trees outside my window right now. It's beautiful. The air is very nice and clean and clear. What I like to say is it's that hometown feel, but with everything you need. You know, like it's not like just like a makovet down the street and one playground here and there. You could stay in Ariel and not leave for a year, which is what I did this past year due to circumstances that we all know about.
You need is there.
But yeah, it's great. It's like I said, it's that hometown feel where people know each other. You know, I go to the post office and I know the ladies there, and that hasn't changed. But you know, we have more facilities now. We've got the university. I believe they have the medical school there now, and it's just more being developed more and more, and just getting better and better. And it's a great place.
So what about oleh?
There's lots of nice playgrounds.
Sorry, we're jumping on top of each other. I just want to get this in before we run out of time. Olim come there, and if newcomers come there, do they have support? Are there a lot of newcomers?
There is support for newcomers. Absolutely, there? We've got a great community. There's lots of support. Yes. That's good.
And there must be like neighborhoods and different shuls and different community groups to help. Yes.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Everyone's welcomed.
Yeah.
It's really great. The community helps when there are newcomers and for all situations. When people have babies, when times are tough, you know, people are lining up the door to bring you meals, to bring you food, to give you a hug. Yes, that's right. You know, you just.
One more question. It's not a religious place. It's everything, isn't it?
Oh yeah, sure. It's not exclusive. It's not exclusively religious at all. But we have a nice community of people who are religious. We've got people who aren't. There's people who speak Russian. My husband speaks Russian, so sometimes that can come in handy. But yeah, it's a mixed city. Mm-hmm.
Wonderful. Okay, we're out of time. Ariella, thank you for joining us on the show. If anyone has questions, please email me and I'll pass your questions along. We'll be right back after these messages.
The Tamar Yona Show.
Tamar? She's sassy.
She's smart.
She's funny.
But she's also a real Jewish mother.
Hi, everybody. I'm Tamar Yona. And yes, I can be all of those things. But at Israel News Talk Radio, I'm here to bring you the news stories and guests that you may not hear anywhere else. Join me live on air Sundays, Mondays, and Tuesdays for the most unique and bold talk radio in Israel.
The Tamar Yona Show.
Shalom, I'm Leah Aharoni. Join me on my show, News from the Torah. Each Sunday, we'll use the weekly Torah portion as a prism for understanding the news today. Listen to News from the Torah to gain clarity about the times we're living in and to understand your own spiritual path in the process. News from the Torah every Sunday on Israel News Talk Radio.
Welcome back to Returning Home. I'm your host, Natalie Sapinski. That was awesome. My first guest from Ariel. That was great. That was Ariella from Ariel. That was very nice. And if any of you, like I said, want more information about Ariel, contact me. Our next guest is Aleeza Bracha from Philadelphia, who has been on the show a couple times already, lives in Pardes Chana, made aliyah with her kids, and she's with us on the line. Aleeza.
Hi, how are you?
Jump in. Good. Okay. Glad we have you today. Thank you for stopping by. Why don't you catch us up on your latest adventure? The last time we spoke was, I don't even know, unpacking, I think. But you've been here almost 4 weeks, maybe 5 weeks.
53 days. How's that for counting?
That's pretty good. Yeah, that's what you're doing at first. You'll stop that eventually. I guess.
Maybe after my first year, we'll stop counting. So
but it's great, spoke, Tell me.
Yeah. Since we last spoke,
Go ahead.
I actually took a break and went to a women's retreat for 2 days at the Dead Sea, which was so necessary and extremely gracious of my husband and generous to let me disappear for 2 days and get a little bit of a rejuvenation and whatever I needed so that we could continue on here. And it was, it's the Dead Sea. It was just magnificent. It was gorgeous. And, you go from emotionally the highest place to physically the lowest place in the world and a lot of extremes. And then today we went to the office in Hadera because my two big kids didn't make aliyah with us because they came before us. So they came in October. And my husband and I didn't arrive with our 3 younger children until March 1st. And the 2 big kids had been here. They'd been in a boarding school. And we arrived, and I thought everybody was making aliyah. I did all my paperwork with Nefesh B'Nefesh. I arrived at the airport, and they're like, no, just you with the kids that are here, that's it. And I was like, okay, but now what do I do? And they're like, well, you have to go through the process, but to make aliyah in Israel with the 2 big kids. And I had done a lot of work to put the paperwork together in the States because I know it's complicated, and I figured I'd have an easier time doing it speaking with Americans than Israelis. But I got the lucky bonus of doing it in Israel and America. Now I get to do both. So we went to the office today, and you'd think maybe they'd say hi and welcome, like, Bruchim Habaim, we're so happy you're here, welcome, like you're here to make aliyah. And we came for our appointment, which was, scheduled. And we show up, and the lady's like, why are you here? With a little bit of an attitude. And I'm like, you know, we're olim chadashim. We're here to make aliyah with our big kids. And she's like, why do you want to make aliyah? Do they really want to make aliyah? And I was like,
Really?
What do you mean, do they want to make aliyah? Yes, they want to make aliyah. We're here. We want to make aliyah. She's like,
Ugh, ridiculous.
I was like, why are you asking me why? Do you need a whole story?
Oh.
Like, is this like a complicated Israeli thing? But everything, she like had a chip on her shoulder the whole time.
Okay.
And I'm trying with my like smile, shalom, hello. And by the end of the meeting, because it was very complicated and, you know, my Hebrew is good enough to get by, but not good enough to really make, you know, total sense. And by the end of the meeting, I'm crying. I'm telling her, I'm not leaving here until this paperwork is done properly. And if you don't understand me, get somebody else in this office to help me because this isn't working. And she's looking at me. And by the end, she looks at me and she says, okay, like, beseder? Like, we're okay now? I was like, had you said shalom or hello to me at the beginning, we would have been great. But,
yeah, well,
it was so frustrating.
Customer service in Israel is is not here. There is none.
It's bizarre.
There is
but
none.
I mean, listen, if you come to make aliyah, they should tell you to say, shalom, nice to meet you. We're so happy you're here. And then you could get to business and say anything you want. And it wasn't like she couldn't smile when she turned to talk to her employee. She had a very big smile on her face.
Yeah.
And she looked back at me and she gave me an attitude like I came here to bother her during my appointment time. So somebody said to me on the phone, because I got Nefesh B'Nefesh. By the way, Nefesh B'Nefesh was amazing. I called them. I'm like, hi, you must help me. I'm in the office. I need help immediately. And they got everybody on the phone. And I'm like, I don't understand. Why are they giving me a hard time? And very casually, somebody said, she probably didn't have her coffee this morning.
Right.
Seriously, they said that I said, okay, you know what? We now have to go back next week on Monday to finish up because they couldn't do it all in one appointment. I'm bringing her coffee and donuts. You know,
you don't even know if it'll be her.
I'm going to bring it anyway, and I'm going to tell her, maybe I'll just bring the donuts then in a box and save it for her. Tell her this is my present, that she should have a good Yom Tov, have a good day.
All right.
It was really rough.
Yeah. Don't take it personally at all. You know, you don't know what's going on in her life. People here they don't have that training for personal service at all. And even when we came here, we were on a kibbutz, and we were assigned parents. Okay, I'm saying that in quotes, and they were older Israelis, and we did not understand. We're like, why couldn't you get us some English speakers? Why couldn't you get us some Americans? Why are you giving us these old Israelis? And they were kind of like grumpy and not so nice. But it turned out that this couple has been in touch with us all these years, and the mother, she treated us like her own children, but in her own way.
Look, it gives you a real look at Israeli life and what people go through. And, on my part, I could have handled it more gracefully. I tried.
No, it's okay. You're American. You're very American, and you're used to niceties. Okay, and here there just aren't many. They don't have that. They just get down to the nitty gritty immediately. They don't have niceties, but when they invite you to their home, they mean it. And when they open their home, you get it all. You get it all. And
and at the end, she wanted to make sure everything was okay. Like she got the message, and she was like, "Are we good?" So she figured it out, but it was frustrating on both ends, and it's a real look at what happens in life here. You go through the ups, the downs, and everything in between. But it was just hard.
Well, you're always a down is not
that moment.
Yeah, look, a grumpy clerk is not so horrible. It's someone she needs to. I don't know. It's tough. Yeah, you got to learn to grease her wheels somehow. I did something funny. This could help you. I went to look at a sport club before Corona, and the woman at the desk was real nasty, almost like an interrogation type of lady, who are you? What do you want? This type of thing. I saw her name tag, and I commented on her name because we had the same name, my middle name. Her name was Mira. My middle name is Mira. I could not believe how that changed her. All of a sudden,
smile,
she was like my grandma. Yeah, a big smile. Really? I said, "Eze yofi Hashem shalach, Hashem shaligam." She was like, melted her. Find one thing. Compliment the woman. Anything. Her nails, her necklace, her ring, the picture on her desk. Connect with her on a human way.
Good point. It's a good point. Yeah, it's a good point. And also, like you said, we have to try harder. And there's a lot of things that are going on here that are challenging.
Yeah. You just take a breath, and it'll be fine. And now she knows you.
You get to lose it one day, right?
Of course. Look, it's tough. It's tough. This is the hardest part, the beginning, starting. It's hard.
And all the paperwork and all the offices.
It's all new to you, and you don't know anybody, and it's all new. And you're the new one. You're the stranger. It's hard, but you're doing it, and you're not alone. You're not alone. You're married. You have your children. You can laugh about it. You can talk about it. This is stuff you can actually remember together. These are memories that you're making. Some easier than others. That's all. And it's you'll do it. You're getting through it. You're plowing through it.
We've had tons of friends help also. You really see who's there. And you also I found all my friends who speak Hebrew and read Hebrew. And I'm like, hi, I just got this notice. Junk mail or important? Do I need to do something with this?
Right,
okay, trash this, call that phone number.
Right,
and we're getting through it.
Right.
We're figuring it out. There's a lot of people. As long as you create a network for yourself of friends, you need them and you help. And thank God for Nefesh B'Nefesh. I called them. They picked up the phone immediately. They spent 20 minutes on the phone with me and with the clerk and back and forth. And we figured out what the problem was. And they were such a blessing. I really have a lot of gratitude towards Nefesh B'Nefesh for everything that they do. It's not just before you make aliyah on the ground. They're here to help you to follow up as well.
But that's good. That's really good. People need it. When you're in a place like where you are, not tons of Anglos there. And also, these things are very individual. This is a private situation you're dealing with. You can't bring 3 friends. It's just like you and your family, right?
That's it. That's all they want.
Yeah. It's very hard also because all of a sudden you feel like a little girl and you're an adult and you've accomplished things in your life, and all of a sudden you're on the receiving end. It's
my husband keeps saying, he's like, it's like I'm 3. Like, I'm 3 years old. I don't know how to speak. Hello. That's all I can say. Yeah. And I could just smile at you and, a neighbor in our down our block. New neighbor. We never met them before. He's like, hi, you new? All in Hebrew. Yes, we're new. My husband's like, I speak English. And the guy looks at him and he keeps talking in Hebrew. And my husband's like, what do you say? And he's telling us, look, I'm a lawyer. My wife's an accountant. We're basically retired. Do you need anything? We're going to volunteer to help you.
We're out of time, Aleeza. I got to cut you off. Say thank you for coming. And say goodbye. We'll catch you next time, okay? Aleeza, thank you.
In a time where feelings have become fact, where rational thought and common sense has disappeared, one man stands above it all.
I'm Howie Sobiker, your political hitman.
Political Hitman airs every Tuesday at 11:59 p.m. North American time, 7 a.m. Israeli time, only on Israel News Talk Radio.
Are you interested in transforming your life, drawing closer to the Creator, and uncovering the deeper meanings and hidden treasures in the Hebrew Bible?
Then join me, Rav Yitzhak Michelson,
and me, William Hall,
on The Science of Kabbalah, where we are seeking to narrow the gap between what we understand of our physical and spiritual worlds. So make sure to tune in every Tuesday at 5 p.m. Israel time, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, here on Israel News Talk Radio.
Welcome back to Returning Home. I'm your host, Natalie Sapinski. I feel really bad that I had to basically end that call so quickly. She was really trying to tell us a story. And, you know, when you're new here, there are so many stories. And it must be so such release for her to be able to share them with me. This woman actually writes a lot on Facebook every day, an adventure. Today we have Zezy Fuld joining us from Beit Shemesh, and he also, lives a pretty adventurous life. Zezy, you there?
Hi, I'm here with you, Natalie. How are you doing?
I'm fine. I was just sharing with our listeners about this woman who's been here for about a month and a half, and she's frustrated. And she was in Misrat Panim. I'm sure you remember being in Misrat Panim, not right?
Yeah, it's actually funny. I actually just saw somebody today who went into Misrat Panim. He said it was the nicest experience he ever had. He said the guy called him up, took care of all this paperwork. So, you know, everyone has a different experience. That's all it really is. That's my opinion.
That's right. You're right. You could have a good clerk on a good day and a difficult clerk on a different kind of day. It's just human nature, really, right?
Yeah.
All right. So last time we sorry, I'm talking over you. You're talking over me. I'm going to shut my mouth, and I want you to tell me what you've been up to.
So I wanted to talk a little bit differently than we usually talk. We usually talk about, like, heavier stuff. You know, we've spoken about the elections, and we've spoken about things going on in America, things moving here. I wanted to, make it a little lighter today. I want to talk a little bit about other things that I do here in Israel and other things that I'm excited about. I play for, Israel has a football league, an actual professional football league, or semi-professional, however you'd call it. I'm actually the quarterback for the Jerusalem Lions, which is one of the 8 teams. There's teams in different cities. Tel Aviv has a team, Petach Tikva has a team, Haifa has a team, Beit Shemesh has a team. Different cities have different teams, and I love it. I really love it, basically because it really is Israel. It's Israel on the football field. I mean, I have guys on my team who are rabbis. I have guys on my team who are not religious. I'm not affiliated. I have some Arabs on my team. I have some Christians on my team, and it's such a melting pot of what Israel is, and that's why I love it.
Okay, slow down. You're talking about football, like American style football, with the shoulder pads and the helmets and all this business.
Yeah. You know what? American football is here. American football is alive and well in Israel. It's been here for many, many years. There's a guy named Steve Leibowitz who's the president of football here. It actually has a lot to do with the Giants in New York and the Patriots out in Boston. Both of those teams, their owners helped build football in Israel to what it is today. The stadium we play in is Kraft Stadium. Robert Kraft is the owner of the New England Patriots. So the American Jewish football owner is trying to help out Israel in their own special way, and football is the way they found to help out.
Well, that's awesome. Where do you guys play? You have a stadium. You're saying Beit Shemesh has this Kraft Stadium?
Yeah, so no, Yerushalayim has Kraft Stadium. It's a huge field. It's got a football stadium, and then it's got a grass field, and then another turf field for soccer. I mean, they built a beautiful place. It's right underneath, between Ramot and Ezrat Torah. If you're coming, it's a beautiful place. Kids can go play there. Locker room, showers. It's a full real
it works.
Field.
That's awesome.
Yeah, no, they built a real stadium there. It's amazing.
Well, I saw the pictures you sent me, and it is awesome. We're going to put them up on the show summary notes so people can actually see, yes, there is football in Israel. I've been waiting to share this with our listeners. There are other sports in Israel that don't get out there. You know, I always thought, and just like probably many people think, all we have here is soccer and basketball. And for most of Israel, that is really what drives things. Am I right? I mean, mostly soccer and basketball. But now you're telling me football. Go ahead.
I mean, I find this is something I've actually discussed before with a few people. I find that, soccer and basketball are prevalent in most what we would call, quote unquote, third world countries, because all you need is a ball. You don't need equipment. You don't need anything else. But Israel today's day and age ain't no third world country anymore. You know what I'm saying? So,
Yeah.
you know, the pads are expensive and the fields are expensive, but, you know, Israel's not a third world country anymore. And therefore, not only do we have an inter-country teams, we also play against other countries. We have a team, the Israel national team, and we play against Turkey, we play against Italy, we play against Spain. We'll be playing against all these countries in the summer. Sometimes we come to them, sometimes they come to us, and it's awesome. It's a camaraderie. It's a way to meet others and for them to understand that, you know, Israel is more than what they hear on the news. You know, we're guys. We're hanging out. We're playing football. We're normal. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm surprised to hear that all those countries have football teams too. I did not, you know, you don't really hear about that.
Yeah.
Surprising. Very surprising. Now, you know, these aren't like the leading sports in these countries either. They also are soccer. You know, that soccer is the big thing out in Europe and in, you know, Africa.
You know, it's funny. Soccer only started picking up in America, I would say probably within the last 10 years as like becoming, and now there's the MLS, which is the Major League Soccer. That only started picking up in the last few years. But I mean, you know, other countries have athletes. I mean, when we play Italy, they have a couple of kids from college football in America that decided to live in Italy and wanted to continue their professional football careers. That's where they went to. But I mean, we have our first game is next week. If anybody's bored, Lag BaOmer Thursday night. We're gonna be at Kraft Stadium. We're gonna be against Haifa, and they're out for blood. We thank God have been won the championship the last 3 years in a row. Last year, sad to say, we're not able to have the championship game because of the Corona situation. We made it throughout the season. We were 10-0, and we had the best point differential. We had the most offensive points.
Okay, settle down, Mr. Football. Okay, just settle down. Who comes to watch this? Tell me, are there people in the stands? Be honest.
Totally honest, there's like 30 people in the stands. I honestly, every time I speak to somebody, they're like, what, there's football in Israel? I don't think anybody knows about it.
Nobody knows and nobody cares because in Israel, they all care about soccer and basketball and football.
Right, so,
if it catches on, it's, you know, I will be surprised, but it might. I mean, it might.
I mean, also, it depends on what the game is. Like the championship game, let's say the Israel Bowl, which is the Super Bowl of this league, there are probably 1,000 people there. There's a few hundreds of thousand people there that come to the stadium. It's family and friends and people.
That's right.
It's it's a nationally televised event. But the playoffs and the championship are nationally televised. But, you know, besides for that, you know, people really, you know, Israelis are not really interested. What really is cool and really is interesting is when we do get Israelis who are like, you know, I play soccer, I'm sure I can translate that sport into this sport. So often we will get Israeli soccer players that will try to come and play with us and try to learn the game, but it's a total different sport. The hand-eye coordination,
oh my God, of course it's different. Are you kidding me?
It's totally different.
God. Look, I was a cheerleader in high school. Different sport and the different build, and it's just different guys. Okay, different. There are other sports in Israel, I'm sure, that are not so well known. Yesterday, I was in the Jordan Valley, and I was at a racetrack. There is auto racing here. I know, who would have thought, right? It was crazy.
There's auto racing in Israel?
There's auto racing in Israel. Yep.
Really?
In the Jordan Valley. Yeah. There's windsurfing in Israel. There might be skiing in the Hamon.
There's baseball.
There's baseball. And actually there's going to be, Israel has a team.
Not only is there baseball, I mean, Israel got accepted to be one of the teams in the Olympics for baseball.
That's right.
Israel's got a really good baseball team.
Yeah. Now are they Israelis? That's the question. Are they Israelis? I don't think so.
Not many. So the way they build a team, with the baseball team specifically, they have to be Israelis to some extent. How many live here? I would say probably 20th of the team actually lives here. One of the players, Zezy Fuld, actually has the same last name that I have. He actually just got put on the Phillies this week. He got called up to the Phillies.
Cool. Awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. He's an outfielder. He plays usually center field, but he just got called up to the Phillies this past week.
So is he with us or is he not with us anymore with an Israel team?
So the league usually ends up being in the summer, and some of the players come back for some of it. I'm assuming he's going to be out for now. We'll see what happens, but the Olympics is in a couple of years, so we'll see what happens.
No, so this is a very good example, all of you listening, that when you do come to Israel, you don't have to give up your formal life. It's true that we don't have the NFL, and we don't have Monday Night Football, and we don't have Super Sunday, or whatever you guys do. I don't know. It's not like that. But if you're an athlete, you can keep it up. I mean, Zezy's an athlete, and he is playing. You can do that. It's perfectly normal. Next
week I got Thursday night. I got my first football game. Sunday night there's a baseball league that's starting up in Petach Tikva. They just called me down there to see me pitch, so I'm going down there Sunday night to play baseball. There's everything here. I mean, that's why I love telling people about it, because there really is everything. If you're like, well, I can't move because I don't. Someone posted it this week. Josh Wanzer from I forgot his website, what it is. I'll remember in a second. But he just posted like a whole video of foods that they're selling in Osherod, which is the supermarket here, and they have a whole line of Kirkland foods, which is food from Costco, and it's stuff that people love, and it's a whole.
Funny.
And
thank you, Zezy. We're out of time. We're going to end on that note. You can get the sports you want and the food you want in Israel. Zezy, thanks for joining us today. All of you out there, thank you for listening. We'll be back with you next week.
Where can you get the inside news on Israel? At Israel News Talk Radio, we're dedicated to sharing Israel's inside story with the world by providing our listeners with news on Israeli politics, current affairs, and Israeli Jewish culture. The Israel News Talk Radio homepage also provides you, the listener, with useful information at your fingertips, with scrolling news headlines, weather, currency exchange, Shabbat candlelighting times, and so much more. Our radio programming is always accessible and on demand. We operate absolutely free of charge for everyone, everywhere. If you love what we do, partner with us now by becoming an Israel News Talk Radio supporter. With your support, you'll be inscribed on our Israel News Talk Radio Wall of Fame. There's nothing like us in the world. Be part of something great. Israel News Talk Radio. Straight talk from Israel.
Howdy, this is Rita from League City, Texas, now living in Israel. And though my heart may have belonged to Texas, it now belongs to Israel and all the fantastic show hosts at Israel News Talk Radio.
Hi, this is Michael Solomon from Kiryat Arba, Israel. And why do I love listening to Israel News Talk Radio? Because I love listening to the interesting interviews they do and their news reporting that most other media sources don't cover.
Hey, this is Nicoleko from Malmö, Sweden. It gets pretty cold here in Sweden, so I love cuddling up with a warm cup of tea while I listen to Israel News Talk Radio.
Hey everybody, this is Frank Morris from Tennessee. Me and my dog Buster really love listening to Israel News Talk Radio.
You're listening to Israel News Talk Radio.
News, opinion, and more. You're listening to Israel News Talk Radio.